Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Today, we're going to make an excellent dish. It's chicken with lemon and butter. It's essentially a beurre blanc sauce, but it's the same in every culture. We're going to make it with some shallots, some butter, some chicken stock, some lemon, and some parsley. And I'm going to make the chicken for you in two ways, scallopinis and also a whole breast. Here's the whole breast. Oh, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, click the bell button, leave a comment below, and come on, let's not waste any time. Let's get in the kitchen right now and make this stuff. All right, my Italian food fanatics. Today we're going to make chicken with lemon and butter. And to do that, we're going to need a few things. First of all, we're going to need chicken, and we'll get to that in a minute. We'll need some flour. We'll need some chicken stock. We're going to be using some California, 100% California extra virgin olive oil. Obviously, if it's lemons, we need lemons. We have some white wine. We have a shallot, a big shallot at that. We have some sweet butter, which is basically unsalted butter. And of course, some freshly cleaned parsley. But first, we have to deal with the chicken, and we'll do that right now. Now, with regard to the chicken, there's two ways that we can go, and I'm going to do both ways for you today. We can cook the chicken whole, the chicken breast whole this way, or we can cut it into scallopini, and that's what I'm going to do as well. So let's start with the whole breast. We're going to just leave this like this. And what you need to do is to salt it, and we'll take care of that in just a moment. This one needs a little bit of trimming, and you don't want to take away those sinews and that little bit of blood there. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to trim this right off. This is the tender, and I'm going to use this for a different purpose, so that we're left with something a little bit cleaner, that's easier to manage, it's easier to deal with regard to creating scallopini, chicken scallopini, or scalloped chickens. Here's what we'll do is we're going to cut at a bias, just like this, to create essentially flatter pieces of meat, which will cook a lot faster. All right, and then we're also going to flatten them out a little bit more as well. That's why I've put the plastic wrap here. So let's remove these. We'll put them like this. We'll take our plastic wrap and we'll lay out the chicken pieces. And we'll also cover them with the other half of the plastic wrap. And I'm going to take this meat pounder, and we're going to lightly pound out these scallopinis. Now I know it's going to shake the camera, so I'm going to turn the camera off and I'll come back when that's done. But the operative word here is to be gentle, okay? This is a pretty heavy one, and that's what you really want. You want one that's flat and heavy, and you want to just very gently, by pushing down and then out to the sides, flatten the meat this way, okay? Not bang like as if your life depended on it, but be very gentle. So I'll come back when that's done. All right, we're back. And you can see how I have made everything somewhat even, all right? So all these pieces of chicken are pretty much even. And what we're going to do is we're going to salt them from on high. You want to salt them from up on high, believe it or not. because we want the salt to evenly distribute itself over the meat. Okay, not too much salt here, but this breast that is whole also needs to be salted, and we'll do that here as well. This is just regular table salt. I'm a proponent of using specialty salts when it's appropriate. Okay, in this case it's not. And just so you know, I've taken that tender and I pounded it out as well, so we'll be using that. And now we just let them sit. What's going to end up happening is the salt is going to draw the moisture out of the chicken, and then it's going to reverse because there needs to be homeostasis, and the salt will be drawn back into the chicken, thereby leaving the meat very tender and also juicy. And you'll see how that's going to play out, more so with the breast than with the scallopinis, believe it or not, because they're so thin, they have to be cooked very quickly, and we'll get to that when we do. So, be back when we're doing the other accoutrement. All right, my Italian food fanatics, we now are going to turn our attention to only two items, the shallots and the parsley. We'll start with the shallots. I'm not going to bore you with this, but we're going to peel the shallots, and all we want to do is just chop them up really, really fine. All right? And shallots these days, I don't know for whatever reason, but they're kind of expensive. So be a little bit frugal with them if the expense is a concern. And just chop them up like this. I'm going to probably fast forward through this so that you're not bored out of your mind. All right, now we're done with our shallots. You can see that they're nicely chopped and we put them away. And now we're going to deal with the parsley. So what I like to do with some of this parsley is basically keep these leaves, just pinch them off like this. And we're going to keep a few for garnish, all right? Because I kind of like the larger parsley leaves as garnish, along with the smaller leaves that are going to be chopped up. Or not smaller leaves, but the chopped up leaves. And so we'll take a second and get a few of these pinched off and separated so that there's no stems or anything like that. Even though the stems are edible and they have a lot of flavor to them, we are going to eliminate them from the running with regard to the garnish. Now, also what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've preheated the oven to 450 degrees. And that's going to be so that the large chicken breast that we're going to cook, depending on how you decide to do it, will finish in the oven. Because the way we're going to cook it at very high heat, it's not going to leave it a lot of time to cook in the center. And so consequently, we're going to finish it in the oven while we do the other small scallopinis. So we have this. We'll put these in here as our garnish. And I'm going to chop these up and we'll be back. All right, now that we have our chopped parsley, our shallots, and our whole leaves that have been meticulously separated from the stems, it's time now to go onto the stove and cook this thing. You're going to love it. All right, my fellow Italian food fanatics, we're on the stove. We have a saute pan or a skillet on there on very, very high heat. Now, I've decided, believe it or not, that we're going to use avocado oil in lieu of olive oil this time. And it is 100% California avocado oil. And the reason for that is because the avocado oil has a smoking point of 500 degrees, whereas olive oil has a smoking point in the 350 to 375 region. And this will allow us to cook everything a lot faster and more efficiently and at higher temperatures too. So a little bit of avocado oil in the pan, and we're going to use a little bit more than you would normally think is apropos. And the reason for that is because if you cook your food in a little bit more oil and it's hot, it will absorb less of that oil than if you use a lot less and cook at lower temperatures. So this seemingly is less healthy. It's counterintuitive, but really the reality of it is that it is actually more healthy because your food will have less oil. So now while this heats up, we are going to put the chicken in the flour. We need to coat the chicken. All right, here we are, and I am going to cook the large breast first so that we can get that into the oven. And I've left the tenderloin on this one. So what we want to do is basically get the flour. We're going to flour the whole thing, and then we're going to knock off any excess flour. All right, you don't want any excess flour on there when it goes into the skillet. All right, so we knock that off, and then I'm also going to show you that we'll do the exact same thing with these scallopinis, and that is essentially it. You want to just shake them like that and get rid of the excess flour. And these are going to cook super fast. You'll see. Now, a lot of people think, why don't you just put the salt and pepper in the flour? And that's a good question. We've already salted the chicken, and so we don't really need to salt and pepper the flour, because this flour, most of it's going to get thrown out, and it's a waste. The other thing is that you don't want to use pepper when you are in a skillet cooking at high heat. Why? Because the pepper is going to burn. Pepper is a spice, not a flavor enhancer like salt. So it's okay for salt to go into very high temperatures, but it's not okay for pepper to do that. Anybody that tells you to put pepper, salt and pepper in the flour, no, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not to my taste, let's put it that way. And I've given you the reasons why. It's actually something I learned from Thomas Keller, the celebrated American chef. So it's from his mouth to your ears. Now let's get on and cook this chicken. All right, here we are. We have our skillet, and we're going to put the chicken in. You have to remember the chicken should go in away from you and very, very gently. All right? And we're just going to leave it alone. We're going to let it cook. I've turned the heat up a little bit, and the reason for that is because as soon as the meat goes into the oil, what happens? The temperature of the oil goes down. Now, you can see those bubbles that are coming out of the chicken. This means that the liquid is coming out and that the oil is not going in. So this is a good sign that we're doing things the right way. We're going to just leave it alone. You don't want to move it and play around with it. We want to brown it on the one side, then we're going to turn it over and brown it on the other side, and I'll be back when that happens. Now you'll notice a few things here. Because we have a smaller end on this side, or a thinner end, and a thicker end on this side, what I'm going to do is turn the pan inwards this way, and we're going to cook this more on the side. so that it properly browns. Now we can check our work and see that it's beautifully done on this side, and we'll now turn it over. And cook the other side. And you'll notice that again, I'm doing the exact same thing here because I want this larger end to cook well. It's a shallow fry, essentially, is what it is. Not a deep fry, but a shallow fry. And now this color here equals flavor. All right? So we'll come back when the other side's nice and brown. All right, my Italian food fanatics. The bottom of that chicken is done. Look how beautiful that coloring is. And we'll now put this aside on a sheet pan, and this is going to go into the oven to finish cooking for about 7 minutes. Be back with the scallopini. All right, now it's time to do the scallopinis. And you can see that this is going to take far less time than the breasts did. So we're going to have to be a little bit cognizant about what's going on here. These are not going to be as deeply colored. In fact, that side is basically, that's not done just yet. But even though it's chicken, these are going to cook, because they're very thin, they're going to cook very fast. If it was veal, we would use a little bit less oil, and it would be done already by now. So there's that side. And here's this side. You can see it's getting a little bit of color. So you have to choose which way you like. Do you like this way of doing it a little bit more, if it doesn't have so much color on it? Or do you want the really golden color on the outside like we did with the breast? Because to cook these any more than we've just done is going to be to overcook them. So we'll put these aside and then put in a couple of more of these scallopinis. In fact, I'm going to put the last one in here as well. Should be just fine. And again, these are going to take very, very little time to cook. And what you want to do is keep them on a plate, and any juices that drain, we're going to add them back into the sauce, which we're going to make in just a second. Here we go. They're literally done. That's how long it takes. You could theoretically pull them out right now, finish them in the sauce, and they would be fully cooked. The carryover cooking is going to take care of all of that. I'm going to try to get a little bit of color on them. They're already, because they're pounded so thin, they're already going to be very easy to cut through and eat, and they're going to be tender. A little bit more. Give them a couple of more, few more seconds. This one's done. You can see how when they start to sizzle too much, that means they're giving away too much of their internal juices, and it's time to take them out. So we got a little bit of color there, and let's see this one. That's enough there, and we're done. Now we're going to come back and make a pan sauce. All right, my Italian food fanatics, here's what I've done. I've drained the oil from the pan. We're using the exact same pan. And I've just wiped it clean, put it on the burner, and now we're going to add a little bit of butter to the pan. Some of that fond in there, you can see, that is flavor still. It's not a lot of fond, but it is fond, and we're going to keep it in there and not wipe it all out, meaning we didn't completely clean it, but we just wiped it a little bit. In order to get rid of all of the undesirable bits, and also to wipe out all of the oil, the avocado oil, even though that's delicious oil. It's got to be some of the best oil, in addition to olive oil for your health. Avocados are, of course, phenomenal for your health. And if you think about it from a different standpoint, you may be thinking, well, that's a lot of oil. All oil has the same amount of calories, okay? So it doesn't really matter. It's the type of oil that you use that matters, and of course the amount as well too. If you want to stay svelte and thin, you have to watch your oil intake. You also have to watch your sodium intake and your fat intake. Well, oil is fat, but your sodium intake, pardon me, and I meant your sugar intake as well. So those three factors come together to form a lot of the reason why we don't enjoy good health. Now we're going to add in some of these shallots. And we're going to saute, not some of the shallots, I'm going to add the whole thing. And we're going to saute these until they get a little bit translucent and are somewhat browned. And because of the oil, pardon me, the butter in here, they will brown a little bit faster than they would, say, in the regular oil because of the milk solids that are in the butter. All right, but even though this is an Italian channel and this is a classic way of making a sauce, the French would call this a beurre blanc, which means beurre is butter and blanc is referring to the wine that we're going to use. It's white wine. If we were to use red wine, it would be a beurre rouge, sauce beurre rouge. But this is a classic beurre blanc, and there's nothing wrong with it. The Italians make the exact same thing, kind of like mirepoix, which is carrots, onions, and celery, is called mirepoix in French, and the Italians call it a sofrito. So it's the same thing, it just has a different name. But this is a classic, proper way of making a pan sauce. So we're going to saute these for a few more minutes. No, not a few more minutes, a few more seconds. You can see how some of it is slowly getting a little bit brown. But if you follow the procedure here, you'll know how to properly make a sauce, a pan sauce. So first we start with our butter or our fat, and then we add shallots or garlic or a combination of the two, depending on what it is. And then we're going to add our alcohol, which could be literally anything. In this case, we're going to add white wine. And what that does is if there's any fond on the bottom of the pan, it deglazes that, all right? So it allows us to remove those bits and bring that flavor into the sauce, all right, without sacrificing it. Then from there, we're going to add a little bit of chicken stock, and we're going to reduce that down. Then we're going to add lemon juice, and then we're going to adjust the flavors with salt and pepper, and then add in our parsley to finish. So you can see that these are nicely, they're starting to brown a little bit. It is time to add our wine. All right, and even though we don't have a lot of fond on the bottom of this pan, what you'll notice me doing is kind of scraping the bottom like this, and that's what you would do if you had a lot of fond on the bottom. This wine would allow you to scrape it up. All right. So we'll come back when this is reduced down. We're just going to let it sit here and reduce. You don't need to sit and watch that. Or maybe I'll, no, you know what? We'll come back rather than me fast forwarding through everything. All right, my Italian food fanatics, look at how far down this has been reduced. That's exactly what you want. It concentrates the flavors, it burns off the alcohol, and now we're going to add our chicken stock. And we're going to do the same thing. We are going to let it heat up and reduce down, and I'll come back when we're ready. All right, my Italian food fanatics, our stock has come to a boil, and now we are going to let this reduce down for about 2 or 3 minutes to concentrate some of the flavors. Then we're going to bring it to a simmer. We'll add in our parsley, and then to make the beurre blanc, we are going to add in and whisk in some additional butter to finish the sauce. And then we're going to dunk our chicken cutlets, our scallopinis, in there and reheat them up, and then add some lemon juice. Probably we'll add lemon juice before we do that, adjust the seasoning, and then put the chicken in. So be back when we're ready to do that. All right, my Italian food fanatics, we are now back. You can see that the stock has been reduced, not a considerable amount, probably by about a third or so. We're now going to add in our parsley. Let's put a little bit in there. All right. And we're also going to bring this down to a little bit of a simmer and do what the beurre blanc is supposed to do, and that is add in our butter. All right. Now, this butter is at room temperature. It's been sitting out, and this is the way that it needs to be added into the sauce. All right. It's added in a little bit at a time and stirred around. Now, classically, if we want to finish the sauce with the butter, what we would do is turn off the heat and then add in the butter and whisk it around like this, okay? And what that does is it's called monte au beurre, or finishing with butter, and it adds a sheen and a flavor to the sauce without it cooking and without it breaking the sauce. So that's a little bit. We're going to add a little bit more. Believe it or not, these sauces take on a lot of butter. That's why it's called a beurre blanc, a white butter sauce. Now, this is classic. It can be used on all kinds of preparations. For example, if we were going to make this with fish, we would use a fish stock as opposed to a chicken stock when we added stock to reduce. All right, and of course you can use red wine with fish as well. I have in the past, and it works phenomenally well. But as you can see, this is not exactly a sauce for the faint of heart, literally, or anyone trying to be on a diet. You can theoretically reduce the amount of the butter and make it more healthy by just using the stock and adding a little bit of lemon juice. So there's no shame in doing it that way. We're going to add a little bit more butter, and I think that that's going to end it for us as far as the addition of butter. All right. One more knob here, and we're going to mix it in and create a beautiful beurre blanc. Then we're going to add in a little bit of lemon juice and give it a taste. So the lemon juice, this is one level as far as the flavors are concerned, and then this is a base, and then we're going to add the acidity in about 2 seconds. All right, so there it is. The butter has been incorporated, and now we will add in our lemons. Okay, we're going to probably add in the juice of a couple of lemons here. So that's one half. That's another half. That's going to be lemon number 2.5. And the last lemon. Now I want to show you, I've gone ahead and used a knife and removed some of the seeds. Even though the seeds are going to get caught up in this, I want to ensure that the seeds don't make it into the final sauce. All right? Now, when you taste this sauce, at first, it may taste a little bit too lemony. It may. All right? Depending on how far you've reduced everything down. However, I can tell you that the power of lemon dissipates with time. And now we'll taste the sauce. That is actually phenomenal. It could use just a little bit of salt, which we're going to add in right now. Just a little bit. Remember, the chicken is already salted. You don't want to add too much salt here because you don't want to end up with something that you can't eat. It's not palatable. All right, let's see. That's perfect. Now, we're going to also add in some fresh ground pepper. You don't want to add too much. Remember, pepper is a seasoning that not everybody likes. And now, we'll go to plate everything up. Back in 2 seconds. Oh, I forgot to mention, prior to plating up, we are going to add these scallopinis back into our sauce to somewhat reheat them, and to just bring a little bit of warmth back into them. And any accumulated juices go into the sauce as well. That way, that's a maximum amount of flavor has gone into the sauce, even that little bit. And these get reheated just to make them warm, because we're going to pour the sauce back over them. So we'll be back when it's time to plate this up. In the meantime, if you remember, we had our chicken in the oven, and here it is. And I'm going to actually slice it on the bias here so that we can present it in a nice way. All right, and you can see that it is still very juicy on the inside. It's literally perfect. So we'll put that on a plate just like that, and I'll be right back. All right, so here we are with the chicken breast, and what we'll do is we're going to pour a little bit of that sauce over the chicken breast like this, and that will be our presentation for this breast. All right, and you can see a little bit of sauce is going to go into the center of the plate, which is just fine. If we were going to make something else to go along with this, it might be some mashed potatoes, and then maybe some greens of some sort, like broccoli rabe or something like that. And you could also add in some of these leaves like I showed you earlier to give it that je ne sais quoi, that kind of a look that's kind of interesting, and that herbaceousness along with it as well. So there you go. That is a dish worth writing home for. And now we're going to do our scallopinis, and what we'll do here is basically, you could do this in a larger platter. We're going to place each of these items here, these scallopini, on the plate, just like this. And don't worry, we'll clean that up in just a second. But there we go. That's the scallopini. We'll take and clean this up a little bit. And then what we'll also do is spoon over a little bit of extra sauce and some of that fresh parsley that we have. And I'm even going to put those parsley leaves on there as well. So you can take this and now add the sauce to the scallopinis, and look how beautiful that's going to look. This sauce is going to be a little bit more than you really will need. Okay, but now let's add some of these other leaves that we've had. And that, my friends, is a beautiful thing. We could even go ahead and take a zester and zest some additional lemon on top of this plate and make it look totally soigné. And there you go. Lemon chicken with a beurre blanc sauce, or lemon chicken, or chicken with lemon and butter. Bon appetit. It's time to eat. Hello, my Italian food fanatics. It's now time to taste this chicken with lemon and butter. I'm going to actually taste the breast here. I've already tried the scallopinis, and they are tender and delicious. Oh, that is so good. I'll tell you what, this is an easy recipe to make. Even if you don't make the chicken stock yourself, you can buy the chicken stock. You just have to chop up some shallots and some parsley, and you're good to go. You can make the breast. You don't have to do a lot of meat fabrication unless you want to do the scallopinis. I'll teach you. You've already seen how you can make a classic pan sauce. And so there's no reason why you shouldn't try this. Oh, it's so good. Lemon and chicken and butter with those larger parsley leaves. I just had them. I actually prefer that over the chopped parsley that's in the sauce. But then you have, I've actually perfectly cooked it. It's so juicy. It's so nice. You got to try it, please. Just go out and get some chicken. It's not that expensive. Like and subscribe, thumbs up, leave a comment. I really appreciate your time watching the video. Let me know what you think and how you've done with this particular recipe if you make it. Send me a picture if you want. Go to my website. All the amounts are on there. It's Chef GSA, Giancarlo Sebastiano Argenti. ChefGSA.com. ChefGSA.com. Should be in the corners, at the top, at the bottom, whatever. Anyway, enough time. I want to finish eating. Come on, get in the kitchen and make this thing. It's going to be phenomenal. You're going to love it. Your friends are going to love it. Your family's going to love it. And you'll be a hero to them all. God bless you. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.